Hello, Jim 12's here again. It's the 16th of April 2026 and this is chapter 10 in my series from my book While We Were Sleeping, and the chapter's entitled Politics. I'd love you to add some questions or comments at the end. I hope this little presentation will provoke some. So chapter 10 of my book While We Were Sleeping, and it's available on Amazon and the link will be down there too. So my working title for this message is Should Christians Be Involved in Politics? Now I think that question conjures up a different concept in people's heads. It's not all the same, even though the question's the same. I think most people will think that question means, should I be standing for Parliament? But I would propose a continuum. On the one hand, yes, somebody standing for Parliament. On the other hand, right at the other end of the extreme, somebody who follows the news. And I find particularly the young who don't follow the news. They live their lives in, I would argue, a news-free environment. So I would say they are not involved in politics, whether intentionally or by default they're not. Whereas anybody who is following the news, I would argue, is involved in politics. Let's look at Jesus. I'm thinking here, we've just had Easter, and the vision in my head is of Jesus riding on a donkey, entering Jerusalem. And the crowds were excited to see him. And did the majority of them think that he was coming to rid them of their Roman overlords? I think perhaps they were. They were expecting a political, military uprising or whatever, a miracle, to free them from their persecutors, their slave drivers. But he didn't. But what did he do? He spent his life on earth, 3 years particularly in ministry, exposing the hypocrisy of church leadership. And he didn't mince his words. He called them a den of vipers. He also spent a lot of his energy upholding equality of women and basically running against the culture and saying there's neither male nor female, bond nor free, you're all equal. Now that's Paul, but basically sorry, that's Jesus' message, and his life exonerated women and lifted them to a place of equality. I think that was a remarkable political demonstration, if you like. I think somebody involved in politics is somebody who speaks up and takes a stand. Somebody who gives a voice for those who have no voice. And here I conjure up a picture for you. The kids who are bullying a kid in the schoolyard. Now, if you're standing by and watching it, or even not standing by but aware of it, that's not being political, that's keeping quiet. If you're political, then you speak up for the rights for life. You don't go quiet on the topic of abortion. You don't go quiet on the topic of euthanasia, because you're speaking up for those who have no voice. You might be called into political office, for example, William Wilberforce, born in 1759. And I can't imagine this young man, but anyway, north of England, and I'm from the north of England too, so it's quite ironic. Anyway, at the age of 21, he stood for Parliament and basically started his political career. He worked with William Pitt the Younger and basically started the war on slavery, which carried on worldwide and became the abolition of slavery movement. Now, there was a young man, who was called to political office. Let's consider Martin Luther King Jr., born 1929 and assassinated 39 years later. He was a Baptist minister, so he wasn't just preaching in his local church. He commanded, from my memory, although I wasn't there, but I've seen the pictures, he commanded an audience of millions. And his speech, I'm sure all of us could almost quote, "I have a dream." And I can't quote it now, but you know what I mean. And his point of view was that black Americans who were from Africa should not be treated as second class and actually persecuted, but they should be free as anybody in the United States. So there was a minister taking a stand in the public realm, being political. Let's consider Charlie Kirk, born 1993, assassinated at the age of 31. Why? Because he was advocating for conservative values. He was against abortion. He was against DEI programs. And yet his views drew so much hatred from at least one person to publicly assassinate him. Now, yeah, he wasn't, in inverted commas, a church minister, but he was somebody who certainly had found himself a platform and was not afraid to speak out. I want to wrap this little thought package up with some thoughts from Gary Hamrick, a pastor, who on the 16th of September 25, and I'll put a link down here for you, he was speaking to his church on the Sunday after Charlie Kirk's assassination in his church, Cornerstone Chapel, Leesburg, Virginia. And he quoted a very interesting verse, Galatians 4:16, which reads, "Have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" Now, I think that's a very telling phrase. Have I become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So, when somebody tells the truth about themselves, the natural reaction can be hostility, anger, and in Charlie Kirk's case, the predisposition to get a gun and shoot. So, is that the necessary consequence of speaking out and being political? Am I advocating that we should be standing up and being prepared to be shot, metaphorically or physically? I leave that with you to ponder. But I would propose that if we keep silent, that isn't love for others. It's actually condoning the abuse that might be happening, the injustice that might have been perpetrated, or simply the wrong that needs to be righted. So I don't believe that Christians are called to be silent in the face of evil. but they must stand up. And it would seem to me that we're all called to be political, and we should expect the world to hate us because of what we stand for. We are not standing for a club that does some wonderful creative knitting or whatever, which doesn't offend anybody. Our Christian faith is an offence, and John 15 verse 18 says, you will be hated, but don't forget, they hated Jesus first. So this is a funny reflection. I would ask you to put a question or a comment. Are you politically involved? How are you politically involved? Should you be more politically involved? I think these are very hard questions, but each of us has an opportunity to examine ourselves and see whether our faith is calling us to greater involvement. Anyway, until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now.